Well, good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you back to another discussion after meditating and sitting on the mat. Today was an uneventful day in some ways. I didn't have a lot to do today, so I spent the day meditating. And when I meditate for the day, I often will meditate for approximately 20 minutes on, take about 10 minutes off, and kind of do that consistently for the day. Usually when you begin, it's not as restful at the beginning, but then it slowly begins to become this thing of peacefulness. But it didn't start out very peaceful to begin with today. And that needs to be expected, because over the many years of living on this planet, in this life, many of those years I was lost in a sense. Searched for peace in many ways. Spent a lot of time reading books and watching TV and projects and doing all these types of things. But eventually you begin to, through meditation, you begin to see something. You begin to see that the world is very calm and very peaceful. And I'm not talking about the world of man's thoughts. I'm talking about the world when you take those thoughts out. Think about if we were all asleep. We weren't interfering in a sense. Well, Sprite wants to say hello, by the way. So think of it as the human touch was put asleep for a minute, and listen. You see these times when you're walking out in the woods, or you're at the beach, or you're walking along a farm lane or someplace quiet, and you can see that the world is naturally very peaceful. And it is our contact with this peaceful world that can cause neediness for some reason. Sometimes it's addiction. You know, you can feel this neediness for sure when you're trying to quit smoking, something like that. Trying to quit maybe habits of eating that are not as healthy. And sometimes in meditation, this neediness is accentuated because you're sitting quietly and you're sitting in an area or in a way that you are not needy at all, in a physical way. And yet the mind continues to carry these needs into meditation, as these needs are always in the background of our lives and often are there guiding our actions, you know, more than we like it, I would say. So what do we do in meditation when we're sitting calmly and these needs keep bubbling up? And sometimes they can get very aggressive, very attacking in a sense. There are many things that we can do. I mean, I know I started out trying to silence it. I equated silence with peace. Right? Just as I do in a way here, I can hear how quiet the world is. But really, it's a state of contentment. Contentment. And contentment does not need to be silent. As you can see with animals, right? A content animal plays, enjoys its life, right? Enjoys its family. So it's not about finding silence. It's about finding contentment, right? So now when we close our eyes, and there's a part of us that's searching for something in a narrow way, and then it wants that thing. Say, for example, it wants to watch TV instead of meditate. And it becomes very aggressive, very forthright and attacking in a sense. You know, we can try to force it into silence, but that means that we are not content with this energy seeking peacefulness on its own terms. And if we do not learn how to deal with this piece of consciousness that is seeking peacefulness on its own terms, at its own speed and its own way, we are not content. And if we do not learn how to handle this in meditation, what are we going to do when we come across a person who wishes to seek peace in a narrow way that is causing us some issue? How will we handle it? Will we push them away? Will we tell them to be silent? Will we say, this is our place, we're allowed to do what we want in this life, stay away? These are all acts of discontentment, of not being content with this person's path, right? So let's try something new. When these types of things come up in meditation, instead of trying to seek to end this kind of action, realize that the need to end this action comes from us being at a state of comes from us being not at peace, and we require this to end for this peace to continue. Instead, welcome this action that is kind of contrary to what we think, because our thinking has brought us to a place of peacefulness, of contentment, and that contentment includes the actions of others. For these actions resemble our actions in the past. We ourselves used to think in narrow ways, and we ourselves used to act in narrow ways. And it is because of what we have learned from those actions, from the failure of those actions to bring peace, that we have begun to think in a new way. So these actions are paramount to our success. It's hard to believe, right? It's paramount to our success to have failure, in a sense. Because if our method worked, we would not leave it. So when the methods of seeking peace in narrow ways bring conflict to ourselves and others, we welcome this into our lives, not because we think there is value in the words, but because these words are part of the steps which will move us away from these types of words, right? Into words or thinking that is much more expanded, much more likely to bring peacefulness. So we sit quietly, and as this conflict bubbles up, we say that we know that the world is content, in a sense, peaceful, aside from man's action. And this part of our conscious inside that is causing issues because it wishes to find peace in a narrow way, we welcome his action. We do not follow it. We do not fight it. We do not argue against it. We offer this aspect complete freedom. This aspect will try to control us, will try to push us into that action, will try to pull us away from ours. And we allow these actions to happen, but we do not value the information that's being given to us in the same way, because we are already at a state of peace. Like a full man, we do not value another meal. No matter what that meal is, or what that promise of that meal will provide, we are already full. So we can begin to envision a glass full of water, and this new information being flowing over towards us, but it just flows over. Our glass is already full. We were already at a point of contentment. So we do not seek any more information. We seek this individual to continue to follow his path until his path hits the wall of failure, in a sense. A wall that will never find true contentment. Because we cannot choose the left hand over the right hand without causing conflict. It's comes right down to the fact that we must love all things equally. Because if we love north more than south, then it will push us towards the north direction. But all those things headed south, what we now feel will oppose us. So we must stay still. And we will be still if we are content. We only wish to react to a circumstance if we do not have peace ourselves. And we do not have peace ourselves because we too are thinking in narrow ways, just as that other aspect is thinking in narrow ways. These are aspects, just like I said on the last talk, these are slivers of truth taken out of context, right? And they argue with each other, right? But the truth is that we are living in a peaceful world, but the minds of men are not peaceful because they are narrow. And these narrow minds have narrow plans, and these narrow plans have narrow actions, and these narrow actions create narrow reactions. And we have this ripple effect across this quiet, calm planet of conflict. And it does not need to be that way. So in meditation, we do not seek silence. We seek contentment. And if we find things that we are not contented with, we must open our hearts further to allow that journey to continue. Not because we agree with it, not because we disagree with it, but because this is how learning takes place. We will not be drawn into that journey. We will not be held back by that journey, because we are not on a journey any further once we have found peace. We are sitting still. We are sitting calmly. We are sitting peacefully. It is much the same. I don't have a sphere with me, but a sphere is a perfect object. When it is imbalanced, it will flow in whatever direction the imbalance pushes it in, right? But when it is balanced, that sphere is still, even though it has the ability to go in any direction it wishes. Right? It is free, but it is also still, because it is content. So anyways, I just want to talk a few minutes about this form of contentment that we can find through meditation. When we are content with allowing others their personal journey without it causing us consternation or causing us issue, we will be moving further towards true peace. Because we cannot live in a world peacefully if that world is built upon the halting of the journeys of others. We must be pleased with the journeys of others, happy to see them, not because they are right, because this is the path to seeing something real. They must continue with their own path, because if we halt their path and tell them how to do it properly, they will not listen. They will begin to assert the fact that they deserve freedom and they deserve the right to follow their own path. And they're right. Allow them to follow it. Allow them to follow it. If they come back asking questions in the future, answer them. But do not halt any path, including the paths that you do not agree with. Anyways, that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. I hope that you enjoy your day, and thank you very much. Namaste.